Hey everyone, welcome back. So we're almost 1 year in with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and let's be honest, it's been a bit up and down. Today I wanted to take a look back at how the first year's gone and assess whether it's time to make the switch from 2020. So let's talk about that launch. Let's be honest, it was a bit of a mess, which was so painful, as I can remember streaming the launch of Flight Sim 2024 and spending several hours being stuck on the loading screen at that 97% mark with well over 300 viewers watching, which was wild. I'd spent years scraping by, sometimes streaming to just a single digit viewership, and now I had all this level of interest, but I could do nothing with it. And also for a Sobo, I think it was clear there was so much interest in this sim, but it was all falling apart, and it was such a shame. The content delivery network was buckling, meaning we couldn't load in, and for those that could load into the sim, it was absolutely littered with bugs. Once the content delivery network issues had been resolved and we could get in, there was the issues of our add-ons. We'd been told that most of our add-ons from Flight Sim 2020 would just work, and yeah, that just didn't really happen, did it? In these super early days, it felt like pretty much everything from aircraft to sceneries were just kind of broken in one form or another. VATSIM didn't work on day one. Phoenix and PMDG were completely out of the picture on day one as well. And it was one of those launches which kind of made you wonder, should they have just given it maybe another year? There was a moment super early on, we're talking like day one, day two, where I just wanted to go back to 2020. I wanted to get onto VATSIM and I wanted to fly my favourite planes with my friends. Without VATSIM, without the Phoenix, without the PMDG 737, 777, what have you, it just didn't feel like home. But slowly but surely, things did start to turn. Phoenix were actually really quick to provide an experimental branch of their A320 family, and it worked really well. It was like a 2020 port rather than a full 2024 version. Then vPilot was made compatible, FSLTL model matching was working, and all of a sudden we were flying on VATSIM again in the Phoenix. GSX was also fairly quick to update, and for the first time since it launched, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 kind of started to feel like home again. But there's been one thing that's kind of dragged on throughout the whole of the last 12 months, and that is performance. Let's talk about that. VRAM usage in particular in 2024 has been one of my biggest frustrations. At 4K, it absolutely gobbles VRAM to the point where I had to swap my RTX 4080 Super for an AMD 7900 XTX, not because I wanted to switch to an AMD card, but because it was literally the cheapest way at around £600 that I could enter the 24 gigs of VRAM club. Even with the 16 gigs on my 4080 Super at 4K at third-party airports like Edinburgh from Pirigee, like Heathrow from Minibuilds, in aircraft like the Phoenix, you can very quickly run out of VRAM, either turning your sim into a slideshow or worse still, giving you a crash to desktop. Now when you say that out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but yeah, that is kind of where we are. The upside is that the 7900 XTX has been solid, providing that I undervolt it to prevent it randomly crashing. Never had that with any NVIDIA card, but there you go. And since Sim Update 2, we've seen some nice updates in the VR space as well, foveated rendering. But for months, all I really flew in 2024 was the Phoenix A320 family on its experimental branch, and thank goodness for it. Yeah, we had a few issues, but without it, I think I would have dropped Flight Sim 2024 like a hot lump of coal. Then came indie builds with the A350. That had a rough start, admittedly, but it has improved over the last few months. It flies much better now, way less wallowy, more refined, definitely one that I will be revisiting on the channel again soon. That period though, kind of late winter, early spring, was probably one of the lowest points for me for Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. Performance was sketchy, aircraft were hit and miss, and it just didn't feel like a stable platform yet. Things did start to turn around when PMDG brought their 777 family over to Flight Sim 24. Not necessarily because of the 777, although it was amazing to get that in 2024. It just felt more of like a general timing thing, like the sim was, kind of climbing out of its early period of turbulence, let's say. The PMDG 737 isn't here yet, though it feels really close, and honestly, once it arrives, I think that will be the final piece in the puzzle for me. At that point, I will probably just uninstall 2020 entirely. Well, maybe after Chase Plane arrives for 2024. I still really miss that from 2020, but it is on the horizon, and with the FS Realistic Plus integration planned. I can't wait to see what the team does on that one. Then moving into the summer, we had the BFU update from Phoenix that brought the entire A320 family, so that's the A319, 320, 321, into 2024 with native SDK support. They're now taking full advantage of 2024's new feature set, and as always, Phoenix remains really the gold standard for Airbus simulation in my opinion. The Phoenix has never flown better, if only the same could be said for my flying. Then, to round things out, Anybuilds dropped the A340, and it felt like that had a really great launch. It's a quirky, kind of fun to fly aeroplane, and I love that the sim is kind of preserving that aircraft. I mean, I know it didn't really quite work out in the real world, but it's really nice that it gets to live on with us in the sim. And that kind of brings us to today, where we have the Sim Update 4 beta. It is fantastic. The performance has dramatically improved across the board. My biggest issue with Sim Update 3 was that the CPU main thread would bog down over time. So if you were doing a long simming session, you would see your FPS just slowly degrade over time. For example, today at the time of recording, I did a live stream for about 5 hours. We were hopping around the UK and France, and at the start of the stream it's fine, it was alright, and then by the time we finished up 5 hours later at Gatwick, we were down to 22 frames per second. That is on a 9800X 3D with a 7900 XTX with 24 gigs of VRAM along with 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM. That is not good. However, with Sim Update 4, that problem is gone. The sim stays smooth even hours into a flight, and performance just feels more consistent. It's like Asobo have really hit their stride with Sim Update 4. It's really feeling really good. I suspect that the full Sim Update 4 release will land around the same time that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 launches on the PS5. And that's a whole other thing. And while I'll never fly the sim on console myself, I love that it's happening. I kind of hope that it brings loads more people into the hobby. It's really great to see. So when I think back on the year we've just had, I can't help but think if Flight Sim 2024 had launched this year instead of last year, the story could have been completely different. If developers like Phoenix, PMDG and Anybuilds had another year to prepare with Asobo's full support, and then the sim launched with what is now Sim Update 4, I feel like it would have been an overwhelmingly positive result. Instead, I feel like we've just had a year of growing pains. Still, without the community at large kind of testing out the sim and using it and providing feedback, maybe Asobo couldn't have improved at the rate that they have. It's hard to know. I think really what was needed was to launch the sim in like an early access mode. I think that would have just set expectations really clearly, and people would have known what they were going into. Because with it being an early access, they sort of know that it's not going to be a fully baked version of the sim. If I were Asobo, I kind of feel like the release of Sim Update 4, had I had the sim in early access mode for the last 12 months, I would now be taking it out of early access mode. I feel like it is that good. For me, once the PMDG 737 arrives in 2024, I think that's it. 2024 becomes my main sim, full stop. The only thing I'd like to see addressed beyond Sim Update 4 is the VRAM usage. I would really like to bring my 4080 Super back into service, but at 4K it's just such a roll of the dice as to whether I'm going to run out of VRAM, and I just can't have that, especially as a streamer. But overall, a year later, I think I can finally say that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is ready. I think it's kind of safe to move over now. And I really feel that's almost entirely down to Sim Update 4. Once that's out to the public, which shouldn't be very long now, I'd say you are good to go. But that's of course only my point of view and my experience, and I'd love to hear what you all think as well. I mean, from my point of view, it's been, a rough 12 months, a rough start, but I think more recently quite a solid recovery. So yeah, do let us know in the comments what your upgrade plans are, or if maybe you've already made the jump to 24, how you're finding it. Let us know how you're getting on, share that knowledge, and feel free to drop by our live streams here on the channel, sub and ring the bell so you don't miss out when we go live, and also on Twitch, twitch.tv/airnaut. We pretty much talk about this kind of stuff just constantly. So I'm going to leave this one here. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Look after yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, happy flying.